titled this really simple so that it's really easy to remember. Words. How many of you remember growing up, you might have said it or someone said it to you, sticks.
Sticks and stones or stick and stones might break your bone, but words will never hurt you.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but mere words will not hurt me. Is that, oh man, I mean, how many of you have said that or have had someone say that to you? Not you? You're not raised with me. Sandy? Okay. You guys? You've had that said? Okay, now the question is that the truth?
Yep.
You rather get punched in the face than have someone call you a name. How many of you have been called names before? Did that hurt?
Yep.
Physically it didn't hurt, right? There was no blood or bruises, black eye, appearances of something happened, right? How many of you, when you see somebody and he got a black eye, you're going through your mind, okay, they got in a fight or something. And then a lot of times they don't tell the truth. They say, well, I fell down, man. Because they don't want to say their wife hit them. It's kind of, your wife, you let your wife punch you in the eye, But you think about it, right? What kind of, there's hurt, but what kind of hurt is that? It's an emotional type of hurt. Maybe even a spiritual type of hurt. Because I know there's some people who claim to be righteous and they'll quote scripture to make you feel better. That you're not living your life the way you should be. How many of you had somebody do that to you? Maybe I've done it to you. Sorry. I don't need to. But the thing is that there's something that hurts us inside of us that is like this. You ever had that, your stomach is really tight and you feel like, man. And the thing is that this is real. And for some reason, the Lord told me you need to talk about words. And how important words are. And I thought about, from the very beginning, the first book of the Bible. It's called Genesis. In fact, does anybody know that root word of Gen, is Gen? Do we have words in our English language of Gen? Generation. Genealogy. The DNA chromosomes talks about your gene, not genes that you learn, but not G-E-A-N-S, but gene, right? And basically what that word is, it means beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning. Now, we can get confused because we are finite and we're knowing that in the beginning there's this space and time. But how is it that in God's time frame, which is infinity, right? Arrow going that way and arrow going that way, no beginning, no end. When in that period of infinity did the beginning start, right? It can be confusing with us. See, the thing is, when we think with finite minds of something that's infinite, you're never going to make sense of it. So don't try. In the beginning, God. Okay, God was there from the very beginning of the earth. Now, this next verse. It says, "Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters." That's cool, you know. Trying to get some cinematography of the Spirit. You get illusion, you know. But the next verse says, "And God," everybody say that word together. Said. Now we use that word. What does said mean? Come on, this is not this is beginning in first graders know what said means. What does that mean? It means it is already spoken. I mean, right? This is what someone spoke
Already
about.
said.
Oh, the words that came out of somebody's mouth. God said, "Let there be light." Can you
And there
imagine?
was light.
Do you wish you could be there? I don't know. If you had a cinematographer, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but someone who produces movies to produce the creation with all this technology and graphics, cinematographics, and how everything was just black. And God spoke. "Let there be light!" Poof! And all of a sudden there's light. Right? God saw that the light was good, and He separated the light from the darkness. And God called the light a day, and the darkness He called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. You know, it's kind of interesting that the day begins with the evening. That's like the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath began on Friday evening through Saturday. And God said, God spoke. Words came out of His mouth. You know, there was a little kind of funny joke, I guess. Because God and Satan were together, and Satan, of course, wants to be better than God, and he says, "I can do whatever you do." And God said, "Okay, let's make something." So God, He spoke it into being, whatever it was. And then Satan stooped down and grabbed some dirt, and he says, "Go use your own dirt." You see, Satan cannot create like God did by speaking it into existence. So God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate the water from water." Does that make sense? Separate the water from the water. If you don't understand this, then maybe you need to take a little science classes. You ever know, do you know what those white stuff in the air is? Anybody?
Snow?
The white stuff in the air. It's called clouds.
Clouds.
You know what that is? That's water. see, oh, what is it? What is the chemistry? CO2, right? Okay.
CO2.
So God separated it, and there was a canopy of water surrounding the whole earth that was like a greenhouse. You know what a greenhouse is, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So they didn't need rain because everything was well watered in this perfect greenhouse. And so God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above, and it happened, just as God spoke it into existence. And God called the vault sky. Kind of basic, right? Sky, earth. And there was evening and there was morning the second day. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered into one place. So the water right here covered the whole earth, and pretty soon, the water receded to certain places and let dry ground appear. So at one time, there was all the water to cover the earth, and some people say, well, how can there be enough water for the flood to happen? Just going back to what was originating from the very beginning. So it is possible, right? If they would just read the Bible, they can learn a lot. And God called a dry ground land, simple, right? And He gathered the waters, He called sea, and God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit, with seed in it, according to their various kind. That's the way it was. The land produced vegetation. The plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seeds in it according to their kinds. God saw that it was what? And there was evening and there was morning the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let there be lights in the vault of the sky to give the light on the earth, and it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from darkness. God saw that it was good.
Good.
So everything that God is doing so far is good. The result is good. There was evening, the fourth day, and God said, let the waters teem with living creatures. Again, this idea of a movie, someone creating a movie, can you imagine what it was like? No animals, no birds, and all of a sudden birds, animals, right? That must be awesome. So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing that with which the water teems and moves about in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was
good.
Now, there's some Christians that believe that God created the world through the theory of evolution. Wait a minute. It says according to their kind. So that already existed at the very beginning. You see, I even have a friend, a close friend, whose husband believes that God used the theory of evolution to create the world. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in numbers and fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning the fifth day. And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind. And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds, and God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make mankind in our own image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in his own image, not in the image of an ape, right? It's where that term, I'll be a monkeys. I'm not a monkey. But you know, when you speak words, you gotta be sure. You know, how many of you ever said, "Holy cow"? You know? Do you know that's Hinduism? Yeah, that's Hinduism. So be careful the words you speak, because the words you speak, other ears are listening to the word you speak, and you're not speaking the truth. God blessed them and said, be fruitful. And during our engagement project, we were studying this about being fruitful and increase in numbers and fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds of the skies and over every living creature that moves around the ground. Now, in this every, is there any exclusions in this phrase? No, all the creatures that mankind is to subdue. Over all the vegetation, man is the caretaker of the vegetation. And God said, I will give every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it, and they will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, all the birds of the skies, and the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has breath of life in it, I will give every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. But I thought there were 7 days of creation. No, because what did he do on the 7th day? He rested. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. This verse right here is so important, because this is the one that Satan tries to twist and change, because he wants to make God less than he was. The Word. Why do you suppose the Apostle John used the word logos, word? That Jesus was the Word. I forgot to turn my phone on. Why do you suppose? You think that there's a little part of God that says this is important? That my Son will become the Word? And in verse 14 it says the Word became flesh and lived among us. Who was it of the Godhead that became flesh? Who came to this earth? That was Jesus. Through him, Jesus, all things were made. So who's the creator? Jesus. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was a light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the first verse of 1 Corinthians 13. Now, 1 Corinthians 13, you should know what they call it. What is it called? The love chapter, right? In the very first verse, he says, if I speak words in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only noise, right? I'm a resounding gong, or a clanging cymbal. I'm only noise. You see, that is a cymbal is an instrument, parts of the drum set, right? But if you just banging on a cymbal, it can be noise. It's not making sense, right? It's just sound. And he's saying that if I speak, and if I don't have love, I am what? I am nothing. How many of you have ever been called good for nothing before? You know, it doesn't matter what type of orator you are. You can get up in front of a group of people and speak the most eloquent speech of all. But if you don't have love, the word says you're nothing. In James, the 3rd chapter, he says, not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. That's me. He's talking about me. And when I come up before you and give a message to you, if I'm not speaking out of love, and if I'm just kind of doing out of a sense of duty and not really believing what I'm saying, it's nothing. We all stumble in many ways. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect. Anybody make a mistake in what you say? Then you're not perfect, right? Able to keep their whole body in check. When we put bits into the mouths of horses, we make them obey us. And we can turn the whole. Anybody ride a horse before? Huh? Just 2 pieces of cord, and you just lean it to one end, put your feet under, and this big, huge animal moves according to how they. In fact, you don't really need a bit. Did you know that? You know what a bit is, right? That part, that metal part that goes in the horse mouth. You don't really need that. All you need, and I used to have a horse, and I used to get on and use the halter. That's the guide rope. All I have to do is just lean it one way or the other. And the horse does what I say. Amazing, right? Or we can take a ship as an example. Although they are so large, they're driven by strong winds and are steered by a very small thing called a rudder. Anybody know what a rudder is? You know, here's the ship, and there's a little thing in the rear of the ship that just moves that way to steer the ship. And it steers the ship whichever way the pilot wants it to go. Likewise, the tongue. It's a very small part of the body, right? But it makes great boats. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Talking about fires. Somebody flicks it out the window and causes a forest. The tongue is like the fire. A world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and it itself set on fire by hell. Romans, first chapter. Furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to depraved minds so that they do what ought not be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips. Ooh, man. How many of you have heard gossip? What is gossip? Talking about other people, and usually it's a negative thing. What's the purpose of gossip? You know, there's a lot of people that think they have so much knowledge because they heard something from somebody, so they want to produce this knowledge that now they have to everybody that they come in contact with, and they speak as if it was the truth. Later on, they find out that it was just gossip.
Or it changes down the line, so that's why it's that way.
Yeah. But what is the purpose of doing that? To make yourself look good, right? Oh, I know everything about what's going on in this world. Maybe we need to humble ourselves and not act like we know it all. Because we don't. How many times, ask yourself this question, how many times have I spoke a word and later found out that that was not the truth? Huh? You might be a mechanic working on a car and say, well, this is what needs to be done to this car, and then you find out later that you diagnosed that thing wrong. Or you might be a cook, and the recipe says to put on this, but you made a mistake because you thought you knew better than the recipe called. You know what I'm talking about? We can be so confident that we know it all, that we spread that knowledge to other people when in fact what we're teaching is not the truth at all. Slanders. What is slanders? Slanders is basically when you use a person to attack and tear them down. You probably had someone do that to you, right? Right? You want that person that you're talking to think less of this person that you're slandering against. You see any good in that? You think God is pleased? God haters, insolent, arrogant, boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. Oh, well, this is bad. How can they make it worse? They disobey their parents. They had no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. Although they know God's righteous decrees that those who do such things deserve what? They not only continue to do these things, these very things, but also approve. Maybe they joke about it. Of those who practice them. You see how important words are. You probably already knew that, right? But maybe we need to be reminded that when we speak something, maybe it's not really that important that you, when you know something, to spread it around to somebody else. Maybe you need to ask that question, is this really some information that everybody needs to know? Or maybe it's something that I should not talk about. words are powerful. Sticks and stones.
Stick and stones will break my bones, but words would never hurt me.
Words might hurt. That's the way it should be. So that when you speak to somebody else, you have to make sure that you speak in love. And if we cannot speak those words in love, then we shouldn't speak. I remember Mom used to always say, that's what you were thinking about, right? If you can't say anything nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. There's so much truth to that. There's times when you need to admonish people, but you need to do it out of love. Love has to be the base of all of it. So we'll sing this song.